Tennessee's season has felt like a big-budget thriller. The plot? Seeking vengeance after decades of pain. Led by Heisman frontrunner Hendon Hooker, the Vols have used this year to wage vendettas and settle scores. First, payback against Pittsburgh after last season's loss at home. Then, avenging the past 5 years against Florida and making a statement to open conference play. Their greatest triumph so far, getting the ultimate revenge against a most formidable foe. Taking down Alabama for the first time since 2006, sending Knoxville into a frenzy and their own goalposts into the river. But now the toughest test of all. Between the hedges against the defending national champs. The Dogs own 5 straight wins over the Vols and are winners of 10 of the last 12 in the series, presenting yet another opportunity for Tennessee to get even.
You can win a game with confidence because you've paid the price, you've worked, you've prepared to go out and play the right way. Both teams, I'm sure, are confident and should be.
But Georgia's looking for a Hollywood ending of its own. Kirby Smart's group pulled off quite the job last season, beating their kryptonite when it mattered most. And this year's Dogs, vicious, hungry, and well aware they'll need to be all bites in order to handle this vengeful Tennessee team.
We have to keep getting better. Like, we're not there, and people want to put us there, but we're not there.
The Dogs looking to remain on top. The Volunteers here to cross another name off their list. The cast is star-studded. The stage is set. The scenes in Athens promise to be pure theater. And we have it live on CBS.
Welcome into another hour of CBS Sports HQ, the college football pregame show delivered by Papa John's. I'm Jeremy St. Louis. And for more on our SEC Game of the Week, let's head to Athens and check in with late kick host Josh Pate and senior college football writer Dennis Dodd, who are between the hedges as part of our blanket coverage of a game that could be the game of the year. Josh, we weren't sure we were going to get you guys off the top because there's some weather moving through. What's the weather situation?
Well, Dennis and I understand our hair will probably be a lost cause today because just as you mentioned that, Jeremy, I'm not going to say you're to blame, but just as you mentioned that, we've started to have some precipitation start to fall again. I would call it a nice, strong mist right now. A lot of people like to claim it never rains in their home stadium, but this is going to be a thing all around the SEC today and really all around the country. So this field is shaved down to a fine putting green surface behind us. I'm sure they're ready to hold some water here. It's going to be a great afternoon regardless, though.
Absolutely. 40% chance of rain, and that's fulfilling that right now. You think it will hold off, though. It's kind of mixed with sun right now. So, yeah, both of us noticed the turf. It looks like you could putt out here. I remember the 2005 game at Notre Dame and USC where Charlie Weiss notably let the grass grow to four inches to try to slow down USC. It worked to a degree, but I don't think we're going to have that today. They're going to be flying around.
Guys, when the week started, this was number 1 Georgia versus number 2 Tennessee. Now it's number 1 Tennessee versus number 3 Georgia. How is that switch between the AP poll and the CFP rankings sitting with the good folks there in Athens, who I also might add have been taking some heat this week for not being intimidating enough?
Wow. Now that's a headline I didn't know about. Okay, so we've been around here for a couple of days now. Surprisingly, what Jeremy said, I thought was going to be more of a theme. Now, maybe you've picked up on something different, but I haven't really picked up on people paying that much attention to the rankings and who's ranked what, where. I think Jeremy, it's just because that when you get conditioned, when you become a part of this thing, like Georgia is now, Bama's been there, Ohio State's been there, you can only use that as your sugar high to get yourself ready for a game so long before kids just say, let's just go strap it up.
Look, it's 1 versus 1. I think everybody's satisfied in this. Georgia number 1 in AP, Tennessee number 1 in CFP. Everybody's got their number 1. This game's going to be played. It will decide a lot. Yeah. So I don't think there's much angst, frankly, about the rankings going in.
Tennessee has not scored more than 21 points in each of the past 5 meetings, but this Tennessee offense is a whole different animal. How big of a test will this be for this Georgia defense, Dennis?
Huge. The Georgia defense has not given up more than 30 points in their last 37 home games. So that's one thing to look at. Tennessee's offense feeds on first downs. If they can get second and short, third and short, that, as you said before we went on, it opens up the playbook. They can try anything they want. Think of second and 3, third and 1. They can go deep. They can do whatever they want. And so I would watch the creativity maybe or the production on first down. If Georgia can limit that, then they've got an advantage.
Jeremy, here's the thing. When you lead up to a big game against Tennessee that you hear a lot Monday through Friday that you never hear on Saturday, and that is, we got to take away the run. We got to take away the deep ball. I was over at Georgia's facility last night. I talked to a number of their staffers. Not once did they say the key to this game is stopping their run or stopping fill in the blank, because they know they're not stopping. I mean, it would be ignorant to think otherwise. You're setting yourself up for shell shock in the first quarter if you think you're just going to stone them. If you do, wonderful, but it's not likely. What you have to do, as Dennis was talking about, is once Tennessee converts a first down, it seems like every time they do, the next thing you see is 2nd and 3 on your TV screen, because teams are really struggling because of the tempo, and they're coached to get up to the line, and they already know their first down play is just going to be a run up the gut, and they're going to get 7 on you because you're not aligned properly. And the Georgia folks are sitting there thinking, if we do nothing more after explosives, then just get aligned and force a 2nd and 8 or a 2nd and 7 as opposed to 2nd and 2 where they open their whole playbook. We give ourselves a lot better shot, because then we know our crowd can get into it, because you don't have your entire playbook open. We may get them in a third down where, and I want you to gasp when I say this, they may have to take some time at the line. They may have to call a play, for example. It could very well be the difference in a game like this.
Here's a hidden stat that I got this morning, or stumbled upon this morning. Georgia's given up 5 rushing touchdowns the last 2 years, since the beginning of 21. They average giving up a rushing touchdown once every 135 carries. Now, we talk about Tennessee and their explosive offense. I think they're going to have to run to win, in that they're going to have to run to convert possible field goals into touchdowns, because Tennessee averages a rushing touchdown. They're very good at rushing the ball every 13 carries. So something's going to have to give. I don't think Tennessee gets out of here rushing for 78 yards, if you know what I mean.
Well, and the thing is, Georgia can certainly run the ball. They've not scored less than 38 points in each of the last 5 meetings. We talked about what Tennessee's been limited to. Georgia, no less than 38 points. So are you expecting more of the same, or will this offense be tested by this defense here as well, Josh?
I think it's going to fall disproportionately more on Stetson Bennett's shoulders than maybe the pregame feel would indicate. Because, Jeremy, you're right in the way you tee that up. If you think traditional Georgia football under traditional Kirby Smart, in games like this, the first thing your mind goes to is big physical offensive line, which they have, and then lean on the opposition, and we've got a stellar ground game, and you won't be able to withstand it for 4 quarters. Kenny McIntosh is probably the best running back on this Georgia roster. He's probably a 4th round or so talent. Now, that's good, but the normal modus operandi for Georgia is you got a bona fide 1st or 2nd rounder, and then a player the caliber of Kenny McIntosh spelling him. So they don't have that bell cow. They don't have that workhorse where if all else fails, you can hand it to him and say, you got to run the rock 27 times for about 4.5 or 5 per carry today and carry us. And that's not even considering that Tennessee could jump out ahead of you early. So if either one of those things happen, but especially if the second happens, Dennis, you're going to see Stetson Bennett, a guy who's already got a national championship ring, have to earn it today without his best receiver in A.D. Mitchell.
He keeps defying what people want to, they want to put him in a silo and say he can't do this, he can't do that. He had that big fumble which almost lost the national championship game. He was very efficient last year as time went on, but he's looking over his shoulder the whole time. I talked to him last year, and I said, what's it like going into the season knowing you're the man? When did you know you were the man? He said, probably in winter conditioning when all those guys that were here had left and everybody's looking at me. And he knew he was the quarterback, and he went with that. So I think that's a key. I also think that Georgia, again, as I said, stopping the run. I'd mentioned the run before, 135 on average between touchdowns. But Stetson Bennett is going to be a huge key.
The Bulldogs favored by 9 points at home, the total at 65. So, Dennis, who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I keep coming back. I've said all week, but the magic number for me is 30. I just mentioned the 37 straight games that Georgia has not allowed an opponent here to score at least 30 at Sanford Stadium. Tennessee, I think, has gotten to 30, all but one. I think that Pittsburgh, an overtime game in the opener, was not to 30. So we know they can score. They have the number 1 offense in the country. Think of it, Jeremy, as first 1 to 30-ish. And I've got Georgia under the number, something like 30 to 27, 28-26, a field goal game. These teams are too evenly matched in different areas, and their defenses are very good. I'm really on Tennessee now because of last week against Kentucky, the best defensive performance against an SEC opponent in 14 years. So I've got it that close. So basically first one to 30-ish.
Jeremy, we've got to take Tennessee in the points. And as Dennis was talking, I was thinking back to maybe a comparative data point. You remember when Florida played Tennessee earlier this year, and Tennessee was favored by around this number. They were favored by about 10. They had a big lead all game, and they only cared about winning the game. And
Exactly.
so Florida starts throwing the ball on them later, and so there are multiple scenarios here. Tennessee could just win outright, or they could have a dogfight here, pun intended, or even you could have Georgia own the game. But that fourth quarter, where all Kirby Smart cares about is holding on to that win by 1 point or 1,000 points, Tennessee's like a gnat, Jeremy. You can't. They won't go away until final bell, and when that final bell rings, I think it'll be under that number. So, I'm with Dennis. I'm with Uncle Dennis here. I think Georgia close, but Tennessee plus anything over a possession is where I would lay my shekels.
Georgia won the game 41-17 last year, but part of the problem for Tennessee was they just couldn't finish drives. That's certainly not something they have a problem with this year. It's going to be a great one. Late Kick host Josh Pate, senior college football writer Dennis Dodd taking it all in today in Athens. Enjoy it all, gentlemen, and get in from the rain. Sorry to hold you out there for that long, getting you a little bit soaked. You'll be able to hear all about this game and the atmosphere surrounding it on Late Kick with Josh Pate on Sunday night. Josh breaking down this game and all the other important matchups and discussing major storylines and the implications. Late Kick with Josh Pate airs Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays on YouTube and Facebook.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.